think the politicians and the pundits are busy right now? You know who's the busiest? The pollsters. They are working overtime as we try to get the pulse of the people going into Election Day. That's why we bring in our friend Cliff Young. He's the president of polling and societal trends for Ipsos. He's back up late with me tonight here on the show. How are you sleeping these days?
Not much. I'm waking up about 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't know quite where I am, but I know once I realize it, it's 2024 October.
Is it all data driven? Is like numbers popping in your head in the middle of the night?
I'm counting on my fingers. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know how it goes. All right, so we got some new, fresh research out from you, and as we watch what's happening ahead of this election, so let's get right to the first one as we talk about really, by and large, who's winning the minds and hearts of people right now.
Yeah, so if you look at the national poll, we have Harris up by 4. That's about at the average. If you take the average of all polls, is about 3 or 4. That's about where Biden was 4 years ago, about where Clinton was in 2016. But that's not what matters.
Exactly.
What matters are the swing states. Here we have 7 swing states as the overall average. It's Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Arizona. And what do we find here? We basically find Trump up by 1.
Yeah, and that's where it all comes down to. It comes down to those states because they're the ones that are.
This is the whole show.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you see that. I mean, how many times have we seen Democrats win the popular vote over the last 2 decades, but how many times they actually won the White House?
Yeah, we've had it a number of times.
Yep.
And the issue is it's shifting ever so slightly. So just a week ago, it was reversed. She was a point up, and so it is really neck and neck.
All right, so we talk about the issues in this race here, immigration, inflation, and that seems to be the case here. Have we seen much change on these?
Not much. It's pretty stable over time. It basically, inflation, inflation, inflation. You have those Biden inflation orphans, younger Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans. They voted for Biden in 2020. They're frustrated because of inflation, and ultimately they're citing that as their #1 issue.
Yeah, and down the road, I mean, the Democrats are really banking on the whole idea that I guess this would fold into the democracy argument that we've heard quite a bit about.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. It's there at 23% if you take all the top 3 issues. At 23%. But like the #1 issue right now is inflation.
Yeah, I think we talked about the last couple of times as well. Healthcare is at the bottom of the list here, when in reality, how many election cycles was that topic A for so many voters?
Well, definitely in 2008 with Obama, it was super important.
Well, the question is, what issues do the candidates have the edge on? And when it comes to certain topics, certainly Donald Trump has the lead when it comes to abortion, not abortion, excuse me, immigration, Harris on abortion.
Yeah, just overall, these are the matchups between Harris and Trump specifically. Democrats and Harris typically are stronger on social issues. Trump and Republicans on the economy and national security. But the most important issue, economy, inflation, and jobs, Trump is up by 6 points. The caveat there, Jim, basically is Harris has eaten into the lead. Biden was behind by about 14, 15.
Interesting.
So there's been some progress on her part, but Trump still dominates it.
So this really makes sense why we're seeing so much said about reproductive rights in the last couple of weeks, whether it be the presidential race, the Maryland Senate race. This is coming up big time.
Yeah, it's an important sort of differential on the margins. What it does for Harris is really build her credibility. She's credible talking about it, so she's going to go back to it over and over again because it just reinforces that perception that she's presidential and electable. So
this is one of those, I mean, the most unique election cycle we've seen, because not only do we have a sitting vice president running, but we have a former president. And in election cycles, you say, who I'm part of the establishment, my other person is, my opponent is not. In this case, as we look at these numbers here, Harris is the one who voters think is part of the establishment.
Yeah, who is change? Who is continuity? This is leaning towards a change election. Harris is associated, at least in Americans' mind, much more with the establishment, much more with the Biden administration. Trump less so.
You know, and this one is a person you can relate to for the grassroots support that Donald Trump has in a lot of those swing states, in rural parts of Pennsylvania, in some of these other crucial areas. A lot of them see Donald Trump as somebody that speaks to their interests more, but in terms of personality, Harris has that edge.
Yeah, but this is the overall average, right?
Yeah.
If we were to drive down deep into, let's say, red Pennsylvania, you would see it reversed, right? I think the most important points here are basically she's strong on some intangibles. Is the right person at the right time? Is a person that you can relate to? That's eaten into Trump's lead. That's why this thing is close. She's a breath of fresh air for Americans, and that's why it's neck and neck.
All right, so when we look at the economy, I think the way that you define that is different for so many people, because for some, some, it is a pocketbook issue. For others, it's something much larger.
Yeah, here, what are we looking at? We basically took the main issues and mixed those main issues.
Inflation and throw the bums out,
we took those main issues and we mixed them with different framings, campaign framings, and what do we find? It is inflation, 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 but if you frame the economy as economic chance for everyone, for every American, that's number one. What's interesting, that's what Harris is emphasizing. Donald Trump is emphasizing inflation.
Yeah.
It's a war of framing right now. Who wins this war, in our opinion, in my opinion specifically, between inflation and economic opportunity for all Americans, will win the White House. All
right, so there we go. We're looking at where things stand. Have you seen any demonstrable change in how we're seeing this race forming right now from the last time we saw you?
Yeah, it's narrowing.
Yeah.
Those vibes haven't burned off completely, but they're weakening a bit.
Yeah.
And we just have a much closer race than we had last time we spoke.
It's that whole vibes election thing, right?
Yeah, the vibes are kind of like vibing out.
Okay. All right. Well, we still have time to go. Cliff Young from Ipsos. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, man.
Always appreciate you. Final Five is back after this.